Hey everybody, welcome back. This week let's talk about MGTOW, a movement, a philosophy that may be incorrect in some regards, but I think there's a lot of nuance here. So let's dig into it and find out what we can learn. MGTOW, always a lightning rod of a topic to bring up. So let's get into it. Let's dig deep, figure out what's really going on. First off, what is it? Stands for Men Go Their Own Way. It's a bunch of men who are coalescing online and realizing, wait a minute, I could just live my life and not have a woman who's a part of it. Now, this could come from resentment. This could come from past rejections that have built up, but it could just be men. I mean, let's try to be charitable here. It could just be men who view women as a distraction, and they don't see it as necessarily like it doesn't need to be a part of their life. It's like base jumping. I guess base jumping looks like fun, but it's kind of risky, and it just doesn't seem like the reward is worth it. I think there's several levels. Like there's no marriage, no long-term relationship, no cohabitation, no sharing of any possessions whatsoever. And then I do think that a small part of MGTOW is just guys who don't want anything to do with women whatsoever. But I think there's a lot to learn here, and let's go through it. I have 5 thoughts on it. The first one is that, look, MGTOW is not new. Now, it may seem new because, like I said, men are coalescing online and they're realizing, wait, I'm not the only one out there who's doing this. This is nothing new. Like feminism, we understand that's not new. It became some kind of political movement in the 50s, 60s, 70s, but that doesn't mean it's new. We had these archetypes in our culture already with feminists. That was the witch. The witches, the first feminists were witches. They didn't conform to the tribe, the culture of these small communities, so they would go out together, live alone in the woods, and we would project, our puritanical view of what they would be doing out there, like, stirring up bones or, eating children. That's what the witch was initially, and this is what MGTOW is too. Instead of witches, we called them trolls, right? Like the weird guy living under the bridge, and watch out for him. But what's the thing with the troll and the witch as well is they're kind of weird, and we're not saying to do that, but they always have like this little nugget of insight. So they're dangerous, yes, but every like 2% of the time they might say something that's actually useful. But the point there is, like, this isn't new. Like people talking about it like it's new. I'm sorry, you just need to read more books. Second thought on MGTOW is, it kind of raises a good point. I mean, some parts of MGTOW, it kind of makes sense, right? I mean, marriage, how it's become defined by the government, it's not a good deal for men. Men do not get a fair shake, especially when it comes to divorce courts and custody over children. I mean, I know cases of, oh boy, I mean, it would just really make your skin crawl. And this is my limited view, perception of what goes on. I'm sure there's way worse cases, but of the woman essentially abusing drugs, and still the man who doesn't abuse drugs does not get possession of the children. I mean, it's absolutely terrible. But that doesn't mean that the resentment is right. So here's what happens in this whole discussion. MGTOW always says, oh, see, look at the divorce courts. Look, it's such a problem. And then guys who are against MGTOW criticize the resentment. So you're talking about 2 different things. Just because you're right about the facts does not justify your resentment about what's going on. Yeah, it's a problem. But what may be happening is you see the problem and you're right about that. Good for you. But the resentment about it may be less than helpful, let's just say. It may not even be about the divorce courts at all, and divorce courts is just one example. It could be about a bunch of other things. It could be about your past rejections. It could be about how your mother was a total train wreck and depressed and tuned out. It could be about that. Just because you're right about the facts doesn't mean that your resentment is right, and doesn't mean that the isolation as a result of that is right. If there is a problem, and I think there is to some degree, it's a learning opportunity. How do we fix this problem? That's the correct way to look at this. Let me take my resentment out of it, or work on my resentment, figure out what's going on there, take that out of it so I can work on this problem for what it is. Talk about it, bring as much light to it, not just MGTOW, go your own way, turn away from it. Third thought about MGTOW is, I gotta be honest, I think it's totally fine to do. I mean, I was MGTOW for a while. I mean, women can be a distraction, especially when you just don't have the emotional, psychological maturity. And for a while, especially in my early 20s, I really didn't. I was interested in other things, and there have been times in my life, and it was healthy to do this, to say, for the next year, I don't care what kind of awesome girl I meet or who I perceive to be awesome. I know that I'm not ready for a relationship. I was, in a sense, going MGTOW. Now, I don't think Reddit was around at that time, or maybe it was, but it was really new. So I didn't know other guys were doing this, and I wasn't getting resentful about divorce courts. It's all about context, though. I mean, this can be a helpful way to live, but are you doing it as a way to increase pleasure, to do something good for your life, or as a way to decrease pain? Now, women are just too much of a pain in the butt, so I'm just not going to deal with it. No, I think there's, women can be very beneficial to your life. We'll get into it, but that doesn't mean that you turn away. I mean, people have the same reaction to Facebook, and this goes beyond MGTOW. I think there's a huge overlap between hating Facebook and MGTOW guys. Facebook is freaking cool. It is an awesome tool. Now, do they perhaps do some unethical things? Sure. But do we just get rid of Facebook? Do we go MGTOW with Facebook? Or do we work to improve it? Do we understand the good parts about it? Only focus on those? I mean, if you really learn about Facebook, it is absolutely phenomenal. Now, there are some problems, but it doesn't mean you just turn away from it. It's all about, and then my fourth thought, I guess it goes along with the third thought, is it may be healthy, right? Just all about context. When are you doing it? What's the purpose of doing it? Are you really doing it to work on yourself, or are you doing this as a distraction? Again, are you pursuing pleasure, or are you decreasing pain? If you're on YouTube, I got the idea to do this video because I was on a MGTOW guy's YouTube channel, and there were guys commenting that they're saying, I'm just going MGTOW because I'm in monk mode. It's like, dude, if you're commenting on a YouTube video, you're probably not, and some of these comments were maybe 500 words, you're not in monk mode, okay? So really be honest about what you're doing. Are you really trying to improve your life, or are you just afraid of women? You're not sure, how to deal with that, so you turn away from it, right? Like Wikipedia. A lot of technology analogies here. Like Wikipedia, though. If you're doing research on something, man, Wikipedia is a great place to start. It's a good overview, may not all be correct, but a great overview, and it can lead you in a bunch of directions, and a lot of the references on Facebook are actually really helpful. Great place to start, probably not a great place to end up. MGTOW may be a great place to start, but not a great place to end up. And finally, my fifth thought on MGTOW is Stoicism is MGTOW. MGTOW is Stoicism in action. Now, there may be a lot of problem with MGTOW guys, and they need to work on those issues. I get it. But what's even worse than MGTOW guys are Stoic guys yelling at MGTOW guys to not be MGTOW. I mean, what is a representation of women in psychology and philosophy? Women are emotions. What does Stoics say? They say to turn away from your emotions. Oh, if there's a problem with your emotion, just tune it out. You don't need to deal with your emotional life anyways. This is exactly what MGTOWs are doing with women. Women represent emotions. How you're teaching men to deal with their emotions, that's how they are taking that out into the world. And then they go out in the world, you told them to not deal with their emotions at all. A woman's in their life, they may get emotional, they may get jealous, to such an extent that they can't just turn it off and go, jealousy is irrational. I shouldn't feel this way. So then, of course, they come to the conclusion that women are just a problem. They're just a distraction. Now, women can be that. But you got to work on your psychology to the extent where women are no longer a distraction. They actually bring a lot of benefit and joy and great positivity to your life that you could just never get on your own. but you got to work on your emotions to do this. So in order to solve the MGTOW thing, we have to first look at the Stoicism thing and say, what are we really saying with this philosophy? So it makes sense. Some guys are raised just to think that emotions are irrational. Then they will inevitably see at some point or another that women are irrational. Oh, I turn away from my emotions. Why can't I just turn away from women? These are just they're each just reflections of the other one. But yeah, this comes down to you. MGTOW comes down to you and who you are. Your relationship with women does come down to you and who you are ultimately. But this is to MGTOW guys out there. I feel for you, because nobody's really told you how your emotions work, how your psychologies work. Yeah, people have just told you to turn away from that, just to turn that part of you off. And that can work for a little bit, but eventually it doesn't. But this is what we work on here at Animus. We work on what your emotions are, how they work, how to develop a boundary you need so you're not distracted by women, so you can actually choose the woman who would be helpful for you. Now, you've heard about boundaries before. I'm sure you've heard about a psychological boundary, but until now, nobody's ever really deconstructed what a boundary is, how it relates to emotions, how it relates to self-awareness, what exactly is self-awareness, how to work on these things. So if you want to be MGTOW and go monk mode for a year, that's fine. If you want a girlfriend, that's fine. If you want 3 girlfriends, a wife, whatever, it's fine. But it all starts with you and your psychology, and I'll leave it there. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. And always remember that everything that I said in this video about MGTOW guys, I could also say about feminists.